Hey, before you start the podcast episode, I just want to lay out a couple terms and conditions that you're going to have to follow in order to watch this show. The first one is go ahead and follow so you never miss another episode of the podcast ever again. The second one is share this episode with a friend who might find value in what I said or what a guest spoke about. And the third one is go ahead, if you haven't already, write a review for the podcast. It's one of the only ways that this podcast gets shown to other people and we get to grow the show organically. And without further ado, let's get you into the next episode of Not Another Podcast. I hope you enjoy. Hello, wonderful, beautiful people. Welcome back to the podcast. Look, I'm incredibly smart. That sounds very narcissistic. I think that's the word. But I'm smart because I have my camera set up here on my desk and it's just a wall behind it. So I can't go behind it, make sure it's recording, come back, sit down, all this stuff. I just press recording, go. But as a safeguard to make sure that I don't accidentally not hit record, I take my phone because I'm a freaking smart boy. And I turn the camera on and I put it over the camera so I can see. It's like a mirror so I can see if the little recording thing is on because my camera doesn't offer a recording light. Thank you, Nikon, for not letting me know if I'm recording from the front side. I don't know if there is an LED. There may be that I just have turned off in my settings somewhere. I'm actually going to check after I finish recording this podcast. But, there's something on my mind that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Let me move this mic, make sure it's in the right spot, because right now it's a little off to the side. There's something I've been wanting to talk about, and that's taking action. And the reason it's been on my mind is because I've done a lot of things recently that I have actually, taken a step forward, and I've taken action on things that I didn't do before. And it all kind of started with my dive into my personal development and not really self-help, but for lack of a better term, self-help. I started looking a lot more into different influencers and people out there that would feed me positivity. This has been the last 2.5 years of my life. This is early to mid 2019, all the way through until current and ongoing. Through 2019, I started, dabbling in my own businesses. I started dabbling in my own ventures of providing product and service for money. Obviously, I'd been doing it for longer than that. I'd been doing it since before 2019, but I mean 100% on my own, nothing else, true, actual efforts put out there. Feeble efforts nonetheless, but efforts nonetheless. In that time, I started trying to find different people. I found Gary Vaynerchuk, which was my first dive into everything, and then I found people like Chris Turcotte, and I found people more recently I've found Rob Dial, I've found Chris Do, there's a few other people that I don't really remember. Ali Abdal is another one. Their podcast is fantastic. And basically, I found all these different people. I've got the mail truck outside. Sorry for that ambient noise. I found all these different people that would basically help me, and would feed my ear with positivity and good things, and basically just filling my environment in my ear. Anytime I was listening to them, scrolling through social media, all I would see is them, their posts, their positivity, their voice, their message, and that really helped me. So as I continued to take action and stuff, then the pandemic hit, and then I kept on seeing those people in my feed. And then I would immediately go and play video games or whatever. And I felt like a waste of space for a few weeks. And I was like, you know what? I need to make a change. So I literally just started doing photography and video and started literally practicing every single day. That was one of the big drivers for me, was just practicing photo and video. And I fell in love with it through watching hundreds of hours of social media content around photo. And video came later, but still we're kind of packaging this for a brief backstory. All of these different things. Then through 2021, I kept on getting business. I kept on getting inquiries and stuff, and I wasn't making a killing, but I was definitely doing well enough that I was well on my way to a fully supporting business. And then 2021 through 2022, I became a little bit complacent with the way that things were, and I stopped really putting a lot of effort into the actual further steps forward and just continued with the exact same smaller things that I had been doing, which is basically just listening. I hadn't really dove in and found any new people. I was still listening to Gary Vee, although he's a great guy. his message is fantastic. At some point, it just becomes dead air. And if you didn't listen to him in the beginning or at least a little bit after, you're not going to listen to them at all. So I started, sorry, I hit the microphone. I realized that I had only been listening to him, Chris Turcotte, and a very few set of others. So I was like, I really need to step up my game. So I shifted my focus by force because I did not want to shift my focus. I was comfortable where I was at, and I realized, I'm like, bro, the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. And I've always said that, but I was actually like, I had a reality check, and I was like, bro, I'm comfortable. That's not good at all. So as I'm sitting here and I'm kind of going through this, and obviously it wasn't like a single moment. There were single moments that I was like, I decided like, this is not good. This is not good. But it was over a course of a little bit of time. I'm like, this is really bad. Like, this is bad. I'm comfortable. This is not good. So I started shifting my focus, and I'm like, okay, what have I been doing for the last year and a half? Well, I've been watching a ton of photo and video content. I'm like, okay, well, what else goes into photo and video? How can I not just do constant deep dives into photo and video and become a better creative, which I can reduce how much content of that I'm taking in, and I can, continue to learn on my own. And with a little bit of content I watch, where else can I grow? So I started watching like The Future and Chris Do. Those people have incredible business insight on the client negotiation, business operations, and entrepreneurial startups, stuff like that. That big, like really, really solid business side of like negotiating with people and talking with people and handling people and business operations. It was really, really solid, so I started listening to them. And then only recently, I started like actually spending tens of hours every week listening to podcasts. When I'm not listening or when I'm not actively doing something, I've changed when I would be listening to music to listening to podcasts. When I'm editing photos, I will still occasionally listen to music. When I'm driving to the gym, I will still occasionally listen to music. When I'm in the gym, I am definitely listening to music. But outside of that, most of the time I'm trying to listen to podcasts and literally just have something playing in the background. So whenever I tune out of what I'm doing and then tune in over here, I catch what I catch and then I go right back to it. Rob Dial says it best. He says that he always has something playing in the living room. So anytime he disengages from anything that he's doing and he goes out into the living room, get some water, get some food, whatever, he catches whatever's on the screen, and it's usually by somebody educational or somebody he looks up to. And then he gets that little bit of value and then he goes right back in. So I started trying to diversify my portfolio of people that I was listening to, following, and taking the advice from. And eventually, through hearing enough perspectives and actively trying and making myself uncomfortable, the funny thing was right in the beginning when I made myself uncomfortable, all I wanted to do was go back to what I was doing before. Why am I listening to podcasts? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? Like, this is stupid. This is whatever. After long enough of doing the same thing for a while, which made me more uncomfortable, I started to get comfortable with the idea of being called out, because that's the first thing. These podcasts and these people will call you out for your BS. They will look into their microphone, look into their camera, and talk directly to your soul. And I don't know how it works, but they do it. And they say, you're not enough, or you're not doing this, or like, we know that you're doing this and you're giving yourself this excuse, but it's really not true. And I'm like, wow, this guy's coming at me right now. But I got so comfortable with them doing that it almost made me want to grow more. Something that I've learned throughout my entire life is that anytime I want to do something that doesn't make me feel 100% comfortable, the only thing I have to do is take one small step that can't be reversed. It's not about going on the roller coaster. It's about even walking down the line and just thinking about walking down a path. If you're afraid of roller coasters, the way to get you on one of the roller coasters out there, don't think about getting on the roller coaster. You're just going to be filled with anxiety the whole time. Put your stuff in the locker, like in the park. Get in the line. Get in front of other people so that when you go to the back and then there's people piling up behind you, you can't get out now. Then when you sit down in the ride, all you got to think about is sitting down, pull down the harness, and then the ride starts moving and you can't go anywhere from there. So best of luck. But that's the point that I'm trying to follow. Anytime I've been nervous to talk to somebody, all I have to do is type out a message. I type out a message that I would say to them in my head or write down in the letter anyway. Hopefully this isn't some hate message or you're going to send like barrage people with, whatever that would actually kind of ruin relationships. But think about this. All you have to do is type the message, and then all you have to do is hit send. I literally will type a message, leave my phone there, and if I'm uncomfortable with it, all I have to do is hit send. take a drink of water, go, breathe, and come back to my phone later. That's it. Then I find that the issue gets handled. They respond, and you've actually started a conversation. Now you've done that. So what I'm saying is that, like, I've been listening to all these people, and then I realized I really, really, really have to, like, take action. Then it hit me in the face when I lost one of my biggest paying clients, and I realized that I was relying on them for most of my income, which definitely scared the hell out of me. So, when I was struggling a lot more, I literally, right after losing them, the next day, for the next 2 days, I sent out probably 60 or 70 emails. Like, I just took action, and I just started, sending emails to a bunch of different people. And I got probably 1 or 2 responses out of all of them. Then, later, a couple weeks later, I sent follow-ups to the people that didn't respond, said, hey, hope you had the opportunity to review, the email that I sent you. And then all of a sudden, I started getting a ton of responses. And I've booked a couple shoots since then, and now we're going. And this was a little while ago. On top of that, I didn't think about, I've been thinking about starting my podcast for the last 2 years, and I've been thinking about it and pondering and scheduling, and I've done a couple podcast sessions, but I didn't want to post it because I didn't have consistent content. And I'm like, why am I waiting to have, a 2-year backlog of content with guests when I could post the 8 episodes or 12 episodes I have with guests now, or post them every other week and then fill that gap week with something like what I'm doing right now in front of you. You got to take action. So what I did was, after a conversation I had with a good friend of mine, which you heard in the trailer, if you listened to the trailer, which I hope you did, he said, I made a joke about saying, like, you're going to call me and I'm going to say I still haven't done it. And I was like, this is stupid. So I literally got home, recorded the trailer, and put the trailer out there. Now I don't have a choice but to move forward unless I'm willing to give up on the dream. And I am not willing to give up on this dream. Rob Dial, I'm going to bring his name up a lot because he's one of my bigger inspirations as far as the podcast field goes. He said that 2 of the biggest words in the English alphabet is I am. They're identifiers. You identify yourself with whatever comes after that set of words. I am amazing. I am stupid. I am driven. I am a failure. All of those things mean something in your brain, even if you just say it. Ugh, I'm such a dumbass. It still means something. And the reason I say that exact sentence is because I call that myself that all the time. I'm like, I do something and I don't realize something and I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. Instead of saying, oh, okay, I understand now, I'm like, dumbass. All right, got it now. That's something I consistently catch myself doing, and I need to not. So basically, what I said in the beginning of this episode, and the premise was taking action, was that all you have to do is take small steps forward. Small, irreversible, actionable steps that get you a little bit closer to something, and you have to maintain the mindset that you're not willing to give up on it. It's the 2 biggest words in the dictionary in the English language. I am driven. I am not willing to give up. It's kind of it. But taking action, man. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. Like for me, like just recently, it came down to starting the podcast and recording what you're now watching or listening to right now. If you're watching, I post everything on YouTube as well as snippets on TikTok, Instagram, stuff like that. So you can find all that content sporadically placed out there or on all the major streaming platforms as well as YouTube. But I started the podcast, put that out there. I've sent emails to people. I have started like really heavily going into client negotiation and business and stuff, and trying to score as many clients as possible at a high dollar rate, and consistently doing outreach, consistently trying to network, and listening to so many more podcasts and implementing the small things. Here's another thing. If you think that starting a podcast or just sitting down and recording or posting something or doing something is, even though that is a small actionable step, irreversible step towards something, if your perspective is that that's a big thing, let's back up a little bit then. Something else that I've done through listening to all of these different podcasts and watching what all these other successful people do, I said this in my very first episode, not the trailer, but the one immediately after that where I talked about cold showers. One thing that is a common denominator among all these people is the cold shower. You can also look, and a lot of these people exercise meditation. I don't personally meditate, but they also do breathing exercises and all these different things. try to implement those small things. Literally, when you wake up in the morning or like at some point in the middle of the day when you know you've got a couple minutes, literally just sit down, and it takes 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and just try breathing. Doing that one small thing and trying to do it somewhat consistently, maybe not at the same time every day, but at some point, once, twice, 4, 6 times throughout the day. I personally do it between 2 to 4 times in a day. I will sit and just and you repeat that 6 times, and it is scientifically proven to bring your heart rate down and calm yourself down. That it was one tiny step that as soon as I started doing it, I noticed improvement in my mental state, in how my body felt, in how my environment felt around me. My perspective completely shifted, and my mindset was forever changed at that moment. I was like, wow, this is crazy. These small, tiny, actionable steps then led me to be able to do the cold shower that I talked about in the first episode. Then on top of that, it's just all these different things that push you a little tiny bit outside of your comfort zone. And that should be your main goal. So, to add one more layer of perspective to it, taking action does not mean quit your job and run. That's a little extreme. It might be stupid to do that unless you have some crazy savings backing you up or a avenue of consistent income. But it does mean taking small, irreversible, actionable changes to get you a little bit closer to the goal that you're trying to reach. I don't know. I think that kind of wraps it up. I think that's all I got for you for today. Thank you guys so much for watching the podcast. Please consider subscribing it and sharing it with people. And I appreciate you guys so much. Bro, this is crazy. I have my own podcast. Anyway, all right. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Not Another Podcast. Just like I said in the beginning, I would greatly appreciate it if you would go write us a review, follow the podcast so you never miss another episode, and share this with one friend who might find value in what I or a guest said during the show. Rob Dial always says, make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. And that quote, ever since I started listening to his podcast, has really changed my thinking as far as how I go about my daily life. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave you the way that Rob Dial leaves you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better, and I hope that you guys have an amazing day.